You know, I gotta tell you, it's a sinking feeling. People have told me face to face that they are leaving me. They've basically said, I am out. What in the heck is going on here? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold. This is GRE. Let's compare the 2004 rental housing market to what is going on today and what that means to the future of rental housing. And by the end of this video, you're going to learn the same lesson that I had to learn. Back in 2004, when I was a new real estate investor, you know, tenant stays in my fourplex, they really seemed unusually short. Increasingly, tenants were leaving. They said, I am out. They were often gone after the 12-month lease ran its course. So tenants vacated my property. These evacuees left, and they were increasingly finding quite easy to buy an entry-level home. Oftentimes it was a condo, but that left me with a vacancy. It took me time to fill it, and I didn't have any income from that unit while this was increasingly taking place. And was all this occurring because I still lived on the premises in one of the fourplex units and played the Wu-Tang Clan too loudly? No, it wasn't because of that. This was really going on for three main reasons. And I didn't understand these until just a few years later. So peering back across the 2004 housing landscape and taking those lessons in how we can use those today, what was going on back then was that, number one, mortgage rates were falling. So this increased homebuyer affordability. It made it easier for people to leave, stop being renters, and become first-time homebuyers. The second condition is one that you're hardly going to believe because we're in such an opposite place today, and that's the fact that there was an ample amount, even a glut, of affordable starter homes to move into, like too many homes, so many single-family homes that some were built and just stayed vacant for a while. That almost seems hard to believe when today we're in the opposite condition, doesn't it? And then the third reason, and this is really the big reason for the renter exodus, is that virtually anyone could qualify for a loan. Mortgage underwriting standards were just irresponsibly lax back then. You could qualify for a 100% loan-to-value loan, meaning you didn't need to bring any cash to the closing table as a down payment. You didn't need to have a job. You didn't need to have good credit. You didn't need to have money in the bank.
Shrimp Creole, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad.
You didn't have to have any income. You didn't have to have good credit. You didn't have to have a job. You didn't have to have assets, and you could still qualify to buy a home. So loans were way too easy to get for my former renters turned first-time homebuyers. Yeah, back in 2004, it's like alive plus breathing equaled homeowner qualification. Okay, now what about me back in the fourplex? You can imagine I felt powerless. I didn't have any pricing power with my tenants. Would I want to reduce the rent just to keep them there? And I sure wouldn't want to think about increasing the rent, because then it was very easy for them to flee and buy their own home and do what they feel like would make their situation better. I was powerless as a landlord back then. Even if I tried to raise the rent to keep up with inflation, they don't want to hear that. It's too easy for them to leave. So let's go ahead and take a look at this chart. Let's look at what this did to the national vacancy rate back then. You can see, as I described, 1, 2, 3, falling mortgage rates, lax underwriting standards, and an ample supply of starter homes back there in 2004. You can see that rental vacancy spike. As the line gets higher, there's more vacancy. As the line gets lower, there's more occupancy. And you can see how we had that 2004 vacancy spike, another one about 2009, and generally it's been falling all that time since about 2009 as we have greater and greater occupancy levels as we go down that line. So let's go ahead and talk about the lessons for today. And before we do, go ahead and put a like on this video. If you like this YouTube video, I'd really appreciate the like. Look, today, all three of these criteria are completely flip-flop. Number one, mortgage rates have risen since last year, and this harms those budget-sensitive first-time homeowners the most. Secondly, there's an historic undersupply of homes, especially starter homes, the ones that make the best ones, for for first-time home buyers that want to stop being renters. An undersupply, they are rare. Tenants can't flee to go become homeowners very often. There's just simply nothing to move into in a lot of cases. In many markets, the queue, the line to visit a newly listed starter home goes on longer than the Dunkin' line at LaGuardia. Rental bidding wars have broken out. So few buyers are going to win. And hey, let's also look at this supply chart. It's something that I've been showing you pretty regularly over time here. Let's get an update on this. Look at how low supply is. We need about 1.5 million available supply of homes in America just to bring things back into equilibrium between supply and demand. So we've come up somewhat off the bottom, but it is still going to take years. We need about 250% more homes from where we're at today just to bring things into balance. You know, as I've said on my other videos, if you keep looking for a housing crash, the housing crash already occurred. It was a housing supply crash. That's why no price crash is expected. The supply crash occurred right here around April 2020. That's when the available supply of homes failed to make its seasonal rebound. The crash happened years ago. And the third reason that things are so different today in the rental housing landscape and why your rent amounts and your occupancy should continue to go up is that loan qualification standards are tougher than leather sandwiched between two pieces of rebar. That's how difficult it is to get a mortgage loan. So things really tightened up after the mortgage loan irresponsibility and the debacle that occurred about 15 years ago. They have swung the pendulum the other way, and it really hasn't come back. And as you saw in that first chart, let's show it again. This has created a low rental vacancy rate, hence high occupancy, and this low vacancy rate should keep trending downward. So those are the three big reasons as to why your rents should continue to rise faster than historic norms. That's why they're going to keep rising faster in the future due to mortgage rates, housing supply, and loan underwriting standards. That's really going to keep the rental market tight. So really, what's the bottom line here over this last about 20 years of the housing market? And by the way, you know I am just a couple weeks away from the 20-year anniversary of me buying my first ever rental property. It's actually, by the way, this modest blue fourplex right here. You might have seen it before in some of my media. Yeah, just a modest building is the way that I started, but it produced income for me. Over the last 20 years, how it started was advantage renters, and today, how it's going is advantage landlords. That's the bottom line. Hey, well, comment below. What did you learn? Do you have any other favorite housing criterion that changed over the last 20 years? Let me know. I'll try to reply to your comment. You know it's me because I'll put -Keith after my reply. If you're looking for suitable rental property, now that it is advantage landlords, you can find the best markets and a manager that will manage the property for you. Just create one login, one time, and get access to them all at gremarketplace.com. Take action and get started over there. I'm Keith Weinhold. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.